You are not obsessed with them, you are obsessed with not having them. And that right there is the crush effect. And I know exactly what you just thought. No, it's not like that. This one is different. Everyone thinks theirs is different. But stay with me because once you see the actual mechanics behind what's happening in your brain when you have a crush, you can't unsee it. And honestly, it might make you look at the last person you're obsessed over and just laugh a little. Because the crush effect isn't just liking someone, it's a very specific psychological loop built from scarcity, dopamine, ego, and projection, running completely in the background, quietly making an ordinary person feel like the center of a universe. And the most interesting part, it has almost nothing to do with who they actually are. Let me show you how it works. Think about the last person you were really into. Not just someone you found attractive, someone you thought about constantly, someone whose name on your screen could change the entire mood of your day. Now think about how they behaved. I'm willing to bet they weren't the most consistent person. They weren't the warmest, or the most available, or the most emotionally present. If anything, they were a little hard to read, a little unpredictable, sometimes there, sometimes not. Gave you just enough to keep you interested, never enough to make you feel secure. And somehow, that person became the one you couldn't stop thinking about. Not the one who was kind and consistent and genuinely showed up for you. That one. And if you are sitting there nodding, good, because that's not a coincidence. That's the crush effect doing exactly what it's designed to do. Here's the first mechanism. Your brain has shortcuts, automatic rules it runs without asking your permission. And one of those rules is simple. If something is limited, it's probably valuable. Makes sense evolutionarily. Rare resources were usually worth more. The logic was useful for survival. The problem is your brain applies this same logic to people. When someone is emotionally unavailable, hard to access, inconsistent, never fully giving you what you want, your brain doesn't think this person is just distant. It quietly files them under limited, high value, worth pursuing. And you didn't choose that, it just happened. Now here's where it gets a little ironic. The harder you chase, the more they pull back. The more they pull back, the more limited they seem. The more limited they seem, the more valuable your brain thinks they are. So you chase harder. The loop feeds itself. And the person you started with, who might have been completely average, has now become this enormous thing in your mind. Not because of who they are, because of the structure of the chase. That's the scarcity heuristic, and it's only the first layer. Now, here's something that took me a second to fully sit with when I first came across it. Kahneman and Tversky, two of the most referenced names in behavioral psychology, found something called lost aversion, and the finding is this: losing something hurts roughly twice as much as gaining the same thing feels good. Lose $100, gain $100. The loss hits harder every single time. It's not logical, it's just how humans are wired. Now apply that to your crush. You have never had them, nothing has technically been lost, and yet your brain has already started treating the possibility of losing them as a real threat. Because you have put in attention, time, emotional energy, hope, and your brain doesn't want to see that investment go to waste. So here's the uncomfortable reframe. The attachment you feel might not be driven by how amazing it would feel to have them. It might be driven by how painful it would feel to lose the possibility. You are not in love with them, you are terrified of the version of the story where it doesn't work out. And the crush effect runs on that fear just as much as it runs on desire. Now let's go inside the brain for a second, because this part is where it gets really interesting. Dopamine. Everyone throws that word around. Dopamine hit, dopamine rush, but it's almost always described wrong. Dopamine isn't a pleasure chemical, it's an anticipation chemical. It's released in the gap between wanting something and finding out whether you'll get it. Not the reward itself, the uncertainty before the reward. And there's a specific finding called reward prediction error. When a reward arrives exactly when expected, normal dopamine responds. When it doesn't arrive, dopamine drops. But when a reward arrives unexpectedly, when you had no idea it was coming, dopamine spikes higher. This is why slot machines are engineered the way they are. Variable reward. You don't know when the win is coming, so your brain stays locked in. Every pull is a new possibility. Now look at your phone. Your crush replies sometimes, leaves things unread sometimes, is warm one day, completely distant the next, likes your post but doesn't respond to your messages, replies at midnight out of nowhere. That inconsistency, that randomness isn't just frustrating, it's neurologically activating. Your brain isn't processing it as a bad behavior, it's processing it as a variable reward schedule. And variable reward schedules are the most addictive structures that exist in behavior science. So every time you pick up your phone after sending a message, that's not you being needy. That's the crush effect running a loop your brain was literally built to run. The slot machine just has a face now. Now here's the part most people skip over or avoid because it requires a little honesty. A significant part of what you're feeling isn't really about them. It's about what the attention does for you. Humans are wired to seek social validation, approval, inclusion, being chosen. These aren't shallow needs, they are ancient. Being seen as valuable by a group historically meant safety. It is in the system. But when you have a crush on someone unavailable, they become your primary validation source. When they respond, you feel chosen. When they ignore you, your brain registers it as assessed and found lacking. Not just disappointment, something closer to I wasn't enough. And when someone's approval is rare, every instance of it hits disproportionately hard. A single reply after 2 days of silence feels like winning something. Your ego just got fed. This also creates something called rejection sensitivity, a constant low-level anxiety around any sign that you might be rejected, even when nothing's been said. So you start analyzing response times, reading tone into a one-word reply, replaying a conversation, looking for the moment things shifted, not because those signals are clear, because your ego can't tolerate the uncertainty of not knowing where it stands. And then there's the status layer, and this one's specific. If your crush is popular, well dressed, has a certain presence, successful, high social standing, the pull intensifies. Not because you are necessarily more compatible, because the approval feels like it means more, like being chosen by them is proof of something about you. That's not attraction anymore, that's a trophy dynamic, and the crush effect runs on it constantly. Now here's a question, and I want you to actually sit with it. If this person became completely available tomorrow, replied immediately, pursued you back, made it clear they wanted to be with you, would the intensity of what you feel grow or would it quietly start to fade? Be honest, because if the answer is that it would fade, that's your answer. You are never really attracted to them. You are attracted to the uncertainty, the chase, the variable reward loop, the scarcity. Remove the structure and the feeling dissolves because the feeling was built on the structure, not the person. And again, that's not the character flow, it's just the crush effect doing what it does. So let's come back to where we started. You are not obsessed with them, you're obsessed with not having them. The scarcity made them feel rare. The loss aversion made the possibility feel precious. The dopamine loop kept you checking your phone. The ego made the approval feel like proof of something. The projection replaced a real person with one you invented. And the cognitive distortion made sure you couldn't see any of it clearly while it was happening. That's the crush effect. It runs automatically, it runs quietly. That's it. See you in the next one.